So we've talked about how motivation is not within you, but around you. That is, it's the environmental influences and circumstances that'll start to set the occasion for you to engage in certain types of behavior. I've got a whole video about this you can go watch, linked up above. If you haven't already, go check it out and then come back. And today I want to extend that just a little bit. We talk about these common reasons that people engage in certain types of behavior, different functions of behavior. From a behavior analytic point of view, there's multiple reasons why we engage in behavior. Oftentimes these are described as functions. So you have this motivation that starts to trigger the behavior, and then you have the outcomes, the things that you get as a result of it. These four functions are typically talked about, but there's one that's often missed and just fascinating for a lot of the types of behavior that we see in the world around us. So what are these common influences as to why we do what we do from a behavior analytic perspective? First of all, attention. Forms of social interaction, gaining access to the social interaction, whether it be on social media, in person, through Zoom, whatever it may be. A close second is access to tangible items, goods, things like that. Your phone, it could be money, anything that you can get hold in your hand, work towards things of that nature, tangible. The next category are things that typically feel good when we engage in them. Think about things like shaking your leg, twirling your hair, maybe tickling your arm, I don't know, sexual stimulation, self-stimulation in that sort of way. It doesn't matter what the form is, it's just as long as the behavior you engage in produces that sort of automatic reinforcing effect. And then another main driving factor in our last category would be things that we try to get away from, that is escape or avoid. Now, it's super important to remember that these are all individualized. That means what I might try to escape from or access might be totally different than what you are trying to escape from or find access to. And that holds for all of these: attention, tangible, automatic, and this sort of avoidance and escape that I lump together. All four of those. Now, this distinction is kind of useful, but there's some inherent flaws. I'm going to dive into this in a future video. Let me know if you're interested down below commenting. In a nutshell, it's a good start, but sometimes it leads to this like diagnostic system, which it wasn't meant to be. It was meant to focus on the individualistic functions, that is what starts to drive behavior. And when you start to lump them into categories, that caused some issues. But today I want to talk about actually and highlight one of those examples, which is commonly known, but it's been around for decades that we've known about it in a scientific community and light, and that is signs of damage. One of my first recollections and one of the first discussions on this was from renowned psychologist B.F. Skinner. In 1953, talking about emotions. So in the context of talking about emotional responding, he wrote, "Responses which vary together in an emotion do so in part because of a common consequence. The responses which grow strong in anger inflicts damage upon persons or objects. This process is often biologically useful when an organism competes with other organisms." And Jack Michael, pioneer of motivation from a behavioral perspective, wrote about this and continued, and I'll quote, "About 10 years after Science and Human Behavior was published, Ulrich and Azrin in 1962 first reported their discovery of the phenomenon that came to be known as elicited aggression, the unlearned occurrence of biting, striking, and so on as a result of painful stimulation, found to occur in a wide variety of species. It thus appears that one of the effects of painful stimulation is simply to elicit aggressive behavior as an unconditioned response, where the pain increases the effectiveness of some form of reinforcement." And this is super interesting, as Skinner would talk about it and interpret it as it's really your biology and the lifetime of the learning of our species in your individual circumstances coming together. Things that create the conditions into which you can survive longer may elicit and evoke aggression and under that circumstances, the outcome, that is the payoff that you get, the signs that show you that you may be able to prosper, live on, survive for the next learning opportunity would be these signs of damage. So in a way, they become reinforcers. In fact, so what happens is these signs of damage can be reinforcers, strengthening our behavior in those circumstances to continue doing it. Kind of crazy, right? So if you remember the beginning of this video, the reasons that we do things, we have on one side the motivational circumstances, that is the environmental variables that set the occasion, and then we also have these functions. We had attention, tangible, automatic, and the sensory and escape or avoidance, and you can add in this fifth one as well. And it kind of highlights the fact that many things that are really well known and discussed in the past didn't necessarily make it into the board certification exam requirements, things like that, because there's so much going on. And the issue is that convenient list of the four functions has been useful to kind of, create a quick list, But in reality, it's really the specificity for the individual circumstances. Signs of damage, I think, and Skinner and Jack Michael and others who wrote about this really highlights that as an example of additional functions of behavior, because signs of damage is one of the agreed upon behavioral phenomena in which many species, humans included, have circumstances in the environment that make it more likely to engage in ways that produce damage to another living organism. That is, the signs of damage on the other person make it a reinforcer for the person that engaged in the aggression themselves. I challenge you to think about this when you start to think about different things: combat sports, brawls, fights, arson, potentially anything that has damage as a result. Now, I'll add one last caveat here, which is oftentimes it's not just one of these sole functions that's actually maintaining behavior. It's a multitude of them. That is, there's multiple conditions that are occurring as a result of us engaging in the behavior that leads to it occurring again and again. So don't assume anything in behavior analysis, including that it might be one function of behavior. It really comes down to the individual analysis and understanding what's going on and influencing the world of that person. I'm Ryan O. This is the Daily BA. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe. It actually makes a difference. And if you want to support this channel, Patreon is how I'm being able to continue to survive amidst these crazy times. Thank you to each of you, the 250 plus that support. You're literally my lifeblood right now. Thank you. All right, see you in the next one. That's your Daily BA.